JRJuggernaut1, and due to some argument I had with a friend over my last video with the Lightsworn, I'm redoing it. I kind of just want to talk about it again, just to make a few things clear. Now, my thoughts on the Lightsworn deck, just to kind of talk about it, not to rant, but also kind of be informative. Lightsworn, Lightsworn, I think, was one of those decks that was just very well made overall. Like, it had a lot of things going for it. Like, for example, you had like cards like Raikou. Raikou destroys cards. You can flip him, destroy anything in mill. You had strong beaters like Lila, Garoth, Jane, Wolf. You also have destruction cards, Lila, Celestia, and you also have swarming capabilities thanks to Lumina. And, of course, the deck also has protection and can abuse the hell out of JRJuggernaut, because you're very likely to mill at least one or two of them into your grave right away. It's interesting. But, I don't want to seem like I'm complaining about the deck. Again, I even said when I made the first video, I never had a big problem with them. In fact, I always found the deck very, you could deal with, there were ways to deal with it. Only problem was you just had to know the deck. I just said, though, the best way of dealing with those was knowing how the deck works. My only real problem with the deck, and it's just one problem, my only real problem was Judgment Dragon being at 2. I just think it should be limited. Don't want to make a big thing out about that, but yeah, that's just how I feel. I think, I understand that there are a lot of different broken cards, but I think it wouldn't be right to keep such a broken card at 2. I feel like it comes under the category of Bryonic and Dark Armed and Rescue Cap. I feel like it's just a card that should be at 1. Because like Dark Arm's so devastating by himself, and I guess you could say that with Judgment Dragon, he's at 2 because he doesn't fit in as many different decks as Dark Arm does, which I guess I understand, but I'm just, whatever. The deck is very strong and aggressive, though, and I'm really surprised. My biggest surprise with the deck is actually how quickly a person can get JD out. The milling. Milling can be somewhat inconsistent, but it seems like most of the time they get a lot of Lightsworns in the grave pretty quickly, at least from what I've noticed. I've played numerous Lightsworn opponents, and they get out JD. They can get out JD like turn 2. It's that insane. Of course, in a way, it's just again, that's why this deck though does take skill. Some people say though, it's like maybe it doesn't require skill, or because some of the strategies are pretty simple, but I used to think that, and I disagree. I think Lightsworn are, some people might find easy to run, but then again, I think if you really want to do well with the deck, you really have to, excuse me, you really have to, know what you're doing, and you really have to be prepared with every move. It's just not that simple. I don't know. To be honest, I kind of feel bad that I ever thought it really didn't take skill, because it's just so not true. It's not, it's not like every move is simple. You've got to, because a lot of, in a way, the deck is kind of chance. You don't know what you're going to mill, so it's very possible. It's very possible that you'll try to do something and it won't go quite as planned. The deck is, you just have to be ready to play with whatever you mill. If you mill, what if, maybe you're hoping you'll mill a wolf or something. That doesn't happen. Maybe you're hoping you'll mill a JRJuggernaut. It doesn't happen. It's just one of those things where it's, you just gotta think about what's in your hand, and also what you might mill, or what's in the graveyard. It's interesting how you have a lot to think about with this deck. Though, of course, it's quite obvious that with the Lightsworn deck, the deck became much more popular because it became easier to get all the cards, as I said before, the first version of this. When you have, I just think, when you have a deck that used to be really expensive. I mean, Lightsworn decks were probably originally worth like $600, $700. And then, a lot of the cards started becoming less expensive. You know, a lot of the cards were reprinted, remember, and also a lot of them started to go down in value. So, yeah, I guess it only makes sense that such cards like would be easier to find, and such a deck would be played by more people if they don't have to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars in order to make it. I mean, heck, even now Judgment Dragon, now it's not even, it's like barely worth $50, I think, maybe less. It's just, I'm surprised at how much it's gone down in price, though, considering it wasn't even touched by the ban list. You know, I guess that's just because the deck was hit, but I kind of want to hear what you guys have to think about the Lightsworn deck, though. What have your experiences been, though? What do you what are your thoughts on how it was hit by the ban list? Do you think, would you ever consider running Lightsworn in the current meta, or do you think it could possibly ever, like, do you think it's, if in the right kind of deck, if the Lightsworn engine was in the right kind of deck, do you think it could possibly win Nats? Who knows, I mean, like, a good example, I would say, is Jarrell Winston, who created a Lightsworn Monarch deck, and I've seen it, and it's actually real cool. I mean, I think it's very cool. A lot of people have actually tried to incorporate the Lightsworn engine into decks, which is very interesting if you think about it, because, I mean, they're kind of taking a negative and really making it into a positive. You have a deck that was really hit by the ban list, but the deck itself is far from dead. So, you could still use it. Hell, you can even make use of it in other decks, so that's what other people are doing. I mean, like, a good example, I believe it was Robbie Cole, I think, who was making, oh yeah, he was making an Absolute Zero deck, and he kind of incorporated a bit of a Lightsworn engine into it, which was really cool, actually, because, he added, like, a charge of the Light Brigade. He also used, I think, a Raikou or two, but it was a good idea, though, if you think about it. Hell, it's like with Elemental Hero The Shining come out, hell, you could even work Wolf into it, because for those of you who haven't heard, there's like it's an Elemental Hero that will eventually come out. It's when it's sent to the graveyard, you can add 2 remove from play Elemental Heroes to your hand, and its requirements are an Elemental Hero and a Light Monster. So go Future Fusion, put Wolf and an Elemental Hero in grave, and you instantly get a special summon. I really like that if you think about it. Yeah. But yeah, point is, it's just great to see. I think it's cool that people are making the best out of it, I mean, again, I was one of those people who never really had a big problem with the deck. My only problem was Judgment Dragon. That's it. I don't want to complain about him, though. I don't want anybody to take this as a rant. And so, what are my final thoughts on the Lightsworn deck? I think it's a solid deck. Even after the ban list, I'm surprised at how much it works. I actually played a deck. I played the version of it a few days ago, and it's still kicking. And I think people kind of ask why. Well, let's put it this way. None of the cards are banned, so the deck is only slower. But it's still very much capable of doing all the same things it did before. For example, using Beckoning Light, using cards like Aaron, swarming. You could still swarm with Lumina, even if you only have 1. You could still search, even with only 1 charge. You still have the same amount of draw power as before. Though it's interesting how some people argue Solar Recharge was the card that should have been hit by the ban list, not Charge of the Light Brigade. I'm not sure, though. That's very interesting. It's a very interesting argument. I don't know. I don't know which is it, because it's really debatable, and I don't want to say one's more helpful to the deck than the other. So but that's interesting. Tell me what you think if you also agree with that. So yeah. Comment at the bottom, give thumbs up this video, subscribe, and yeah, just tell me what you guys think about this topic, guys, because Lightsworn deck, probably one of the most, is a very much talked about deck nowadays, or at least the cards are. So yeah, it's JRJuggernaut1 signing off. Peace, guys.